name is Elizabeth Kozarski-Skrabunia, and I'm the curator for the museum. I'd like to talk today about our exhibit From Holland to Here. From Holland to Here is an exhibit about the earliest Dutch settlers in the town of Orangetown. They were a group of industrious farmers that left their boweries in lower Manhattan and came here to Orangetown. They thrived, they were entrepreneurial, and they kind of established what we know about Orangetown residents today. With our exhibit, we were able to use some graphics from the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. This is a beautiful painting by Frans Hals. We used the graphics throughout the exhibit, so you'll see them starting to go through. Part of what we were thinking when we started talking about this exhibit was, okay, we have the history of the town of Orangetown. We know that there were these families that came here, but any exhibit needs three-dimensional objects. We needed some objects, and we were very fortunate to come in contact with the collector, Mr. George Way, who was able to lend us some beautiful items. George, you want to come talk to us a little bit?
I'd love to.
Mr. George Way is America's premier collector of Dutch art and artifacts. Our museum was very lucky to have met him and to be the beneficiary of his generosity in loaning us some of the most exquisite Dutch items that we've ever laid eyes on. So here's George Way.
Good morning.
So George, what is it about Dutch art that appealed to you so much in the beginning?
Well, you know, when I first started studying Dutch art in the Metropolitan Museum, I really fell in love with the paintings first.
The paintings.
Right. Because I seen so many wonderful subjects that the Dutch artists painted during the golden years of art. You see seascapes, landscapes, still lives, genre, you know, birds, animals. I mean, there's such a variety. And the Dutch, from what I read, always had beautiful homes in Holland. All their brass, everything was always well polished. Their homes were maintained like museums. They were absolutely beautiful. And I started just collecting Dutch art, you know, 51 years ago.
51 years
Still collecting.
Ago. I know you're still collecting.
Yes.
Here's some terrific things that you loaned us to make up our fireplace.
Well, you know, when we think of the fireplace was the main...
The home.
Well, the home, but is where the family members would gather and have good conversation, and it kept the house warm, as you know. Sure. And the fireplace always had wonderful tools, cooking tools. And you had curfews, you had skillets, you had baker's peels, you had a fire back, the andirons to hold the logs. You had, and all the brass, like I said, was always polished. And they're just beautiful objects at that time. They were beautiful and functional as well.
What's amazing to me is you have several items that are in pairs. Is that difficult to find two of them?
Very hard to find, especially these sconces, you know, which are unusual.
There's some story behind them, isn't
Well,
there?
I found them on eBay, and they were miscatalogued, and when I had them less than $200, but when I cleaned them, the original initials on the back of the owner are still there, right, which is unusual. You know.
Painting too, George.
Lovely painting. What's nice about Dutch art, they painted on panel, oak panel. This is on an oak panel. They painted on canvas. They painted on copper. Even Rembrandt painted on copper. A lot of people don't know that. Like most of my miniatures, which you'll see later. You know. So, and like I said, the subject matter is so intriguing, and the colors, and to have a painting this vibrant after over 300 years, it's amazing.
That's right. Again, most of the things that you've loaned us are pre-1700s, so
right,
the 1600s, 17th century.
Yes, yes.
And to, you know, to be in the museum and walk around and have, first of all, it's been fabulous having these items here, well, and living with these 400-year-old pieces.
Well, you know, I think the nice thing about collecting is sharing it with the public. That's what it's all about, you know? Because most people like yourself, before you met me, never seen nothing like this before. No. But it's out there, you know, and it's just collectors who have the ability to know what we're doing and putting it all together.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite pieces is this drawing of a young lady.
Oh, that wonderful chalk.
I don't know, there's something, I love everything, but there's something about this drawing that...
Well, that's around 1650. That's another find on the eBay. and it was sold through Christie's years ago, and it belonged to some famous collector, and I ended up getting it.
And then this with this kind of genre piece, couple of guys in the tavern.
Right.
I love like the high-low aspect
Right.
of Dutch art.
Well, there were certain artists who painted genre subjects, like tavern scenes,
Yeah.
like Adrian Manuel Stad, who painted people drinking, playing dice, playing cards, smoking, you know, with little tobacco boxes. And most of them, like this one here, is painted on wood. Again, painted on an oak panel.
Right, right. I mean, it's amazing also the colors, the vibrancy.
And the faces, the expressions,
yes,
it's
these
amazing.
look like people we know, not that I, hang out in such taverns.
Exactly.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about some of the furniture. Now,
Yes.
I know that you've indicated that some of these pieces of furniture are different, using different types of wood. What was most typical?
Well, oak, mostly oak and walnut. Walnut was reserved for finer furniture because it was a softer wood, it was easy to carve, and you could really make them look really beautiful. And what's amazing about them, they're in such wonderful condition. This one is about 1680, and caning was very popular during the third quarter of the 17th century, not only in Holland but also in England as well.
Right.
And some of these chairs are already confused from the English to the American, but to prove that they're Dutch, the back stretcher is missing. I should say missing, omitted. They never put a back stretcher like the English chairs. And the chair behind you, which is a tall chair, is very typical of Daniel Moreau, who was a French Huguenot and an architect. And that was his style of chair that was being made during the William and Mary period in 1690, 1710.
Beautiful. They're really exquisite.
Yes.
What about this item?
The bed warmer. Well, if you need a bed warmer in the 17th century, the sheets were cold and you put coal in it, you heat it by the fireplace and you bring it up to the bedroom, you put it under the sheets and you hop in bed to keep warm.
Let me ask you something. I mean, most of what you've loaned us for this exhibit has been purchased in America. How do you think these items came here? What's your opinion on that?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people moved from the Netherlands to America.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that this stuff came from a house from New York or in America from that period.
Right.
And I often wonder, where did all that early furniture disappear to? And when it says
There's
George has it all,
there's more out there.
Oh, I'll find it. There is.
There's more out
yes,
there.
Yes,
Maybe
there
that's
is.
it. But even like as our panels for the exhibit, we talk about some of those, the names of those early Dutch settlers. Maybe some of these items would have been brought to furnish those homes, or for the boss, whoever
Right.
it was, that.
And who knows, it could have belonged to one of the early settlers. We don't know that for sure,
Yeah, exactly. What about something like this box?
Oh, the foot warmer. Well, you needed a foot warmer. The floors were damp, it was cold as well. You would put coal in there, you heat them up, and as you're sitting, a woman would put her feet on them to keep warm. They also had a handle on them. You would carry them to church as well. And they would bring their own heater to church, because churches were very damp and cold.
So, when you talk about like what the Dutch were like, and looking at these objects, you really get this feeling that they had a love of craft, that they had a kind of open-minded attitude. I mean, these paintings don't have, there aren't religious subjects. They look kind of like, here's a, very important, the sea, right?
Seascape,
the
yes.
Seascape, the, trade and entrepreneurial spirit.
Well, religious paintings were mostly earlier in the Netherlands, like 16th century. But in the middle of the 17th century, or even the early 17th century, you had portraits became very popular. And then they got away from the religious subjects and started painting all different subjects. Seascapes, people walking through the woods.
Well, don't they say that the Dutch really formed that concept of the middle class? That it wasn't just, here's the highest class, the lowest class,
right,
but, hearth and home, loving children.
Well, middle class families had beautiful homes as well. They could afford some of the nicest things at that time. And they traveled and brought things back with them as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about this mysterious painting over here, which is...
it's amazing. It's a wonderful painting. I had it cleaned quite a few years ago. It's filled with varnish. It was dark as can be. And I didn't even know he was holding a pair of orange gloves, But he's definitely probably a merchant so many of them important to have such a wonderful costume.
Exactly.
And that nice falling, wavy, lace collar.
Yeah. I'm curious, was this guy someone who, owned a business in New Amsterdam, or was he someone's, relative? And that's what's so, to me, fascinating.
Yes.
That we're wondering, who was this?
And it's sad though, because a lot of portraits at that time weren't signed.
Yeah.
Or have the name of the sitter or the artist.
Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. I think because who thought 300 years ago that your painter would still be around, and all your family members knew who you were. So,
and also, I think a painter, an artist was kind of like
each artist had their certain signature. I mean, some people look at that and say, well, that's by this artist, and you can look at another painting, well, that's by Rembrandt, because you know their style of painting.
Right.
So eventually you can narrow it down, comparing to other paintings that are signed or dated.
Right.
And that's kind of a clue.
Right. So hanging next to him, these two fabulous...
You got a beautiful charger, big beautiful charger from the 1600s, and a brass arms plate that was used to collect alms for the poor. And the name on the plate is dated 1650, and has the name Nicholas Bellinius, which most plates are not even signed by anybody. Huh. So to have a name on it is really, I should research it, but there's not time right now.
Makes it quite special.
Exactly.
This panel we have over here has just a little history about what was traded for the 16,000 acres of the Tappan Patent.
Yes.
And it's pretty. This is something that's pretty significant. A lot of people have been interested in taking a look at this.
It's interesting when you look at that. You think of the early wills at that time.
Yes.
Mentioning, what they're leaving to their children, like a silver spoon. There were kettles. There was this. There was that. It's amazing how you can read these old wills and you'll know exactly what was in these homes at that time.
Yeah. Well, this isn't it. Let's take a look in the other gallery.
Oh, sure. Why not?
Another part of the treasures that we're showing in the exhibit are some of George's miniatures. Tell us something about these exquisite tiny paintings.
I love portrait miniatures. You know why? Because they're smaller scale than these big paintings.
Yeah.
They were usually put in the silver, brass, copper locket with a chain. You would carry it around, and whenever you wanted to look at it, whether it's your father, your uncle, oh, I miss you. Remember, we didn't have photography then.
Right.
And many paintings were painted of kings and royalty as well. And people who really admired the king or the queen, oh, Charles, I miss you, whatever, But what's interesting about these are, like here we have husband and wife. I can't identify some of them. This is Queen Mary. But they're painted on copper.
On copper?
Right. Rarely are they ever, an oak panel, but mostly copper. And the bigger ones were really cabinet size, where they would go into a cabinet.
Right.
But the smaller ones you can see would fit inside a miniature and you can carry them around. Yes.
They have such personality, these small paintings.
This is my favorite one because it's dated 1601.
1601?
Or 3, one or the other.
Kind of fabulous.
Yes.
Well, the paintings really speak to me. In some of the paintings over here also.
Yes. Still life.
Well, we know that the Dutch, how they love flowers, and tulips especially.
And by the way, this is a Rembrandt tulip. We call that a Rembrandt tulip because of the color.
That's right. There's something special about this painting, too.
Yeah, a woman sitting by an open window, holding a book. Like again, it's sad we don't know who she is, But we could date her late 17th century from a costume.
Right.
Really typical of that period with a little brooch.
Yeah.
And the hands are done very well. Artists weren't too good with hands, only a handful. But when you see good hands, you know it's from a good painter,
Some of these pieces over here, again, this is one of my favorite pieces. This
fellow
looks like he's, trying to see is there any brew left in the cask there, right?
He's holding on to that jug like, is it empty or something in there?
Right.
Again, lovely painting.
And this portrait in the center.
She reminds me of Rembrandt because of the dark background and the face is kind of lit up, which is very typical of Rembrandt's work. But we know her age because she's dated up there. She's 65 years old, and it's dated 1650. Also painted on panel, and you see where it has 3 panels.
Yeah, you can
which
see
is
that.
typical of that period.
Now, why do you think so many of the portraits are kind of encased in this black, this darkness, like the figure is emerging from the gloom.
Well, every painter didn't paint all dark black. Only a handful of, like Rembrandt and a few other painters. Well, because you really could focus on the collar or the lacework. So. As you see a lot of paintings with dark backgrounds have this beautiful lacework, and you could really study it, you know, against a black background.
I see that.
You know?
Now, when I look at this pottery, you know, I usually think, when I think about the Dutch pottery, I think about, oh, it has to be blue and white, but not necessarily.
No, not at all. No, you have yellows and purples in here. These are early 18th century, and they're Delft. Right, these are modern compared to the 1600s, you know. But they're wonderful for decoration.
Yeah. And a cabinet like this, what would this have been?
Well, this is a chest of drawers. You have 2 cupboard doors that's concealing 3 drawers and a drawer on top. And they were functional, and it was interesting for moving. This comes apart in 2 sections. Like most early furniture, it was easy to move, you know, and they're usually made out of oak. This has ebony, painted black, which enhances the beauty of the piece as well. Ebony was very typical of that period, especially in the Netherlands.
I see. And then there's some paintings over here that are kind of painting of the cow and the couple dancing in the tavern.
Yes. We have a Cornelius dagger here. Also, this painting is a tavern scene. You see a couple dancing, and everybody on the background is drinking. And another animal, a cow. You see the sun rays coming through the sky, and its shadow is on the fence.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, yes, exactly.
Again, another painted on an oak panel.
Exactly. People really have loved looking at these paintings.
Right.
I mean, we've had some visitors who really have spent.
We feel this one could be by Paulus Potter, who's a famous painter of animals, especially cows. So, but who knows?
Well, speaking of cows, what would this have been used for?
A milk jug. When you're milking the cow.
What a fabulous milk jug! What farmer would have it?
Matter of fact, we have 2 of them in the exhibit. You know, I found one, and a week later I found the other one just before the exhibit opened up. You know, and they're really cool.
You know, when I look at this vase, it looks like very Chinese to me. So do you think
the influence?
that
influence in Delft and Delft porcelain pottery. This is by Adrian Llewellyn, who was a potter from Rotterdam in the late 1600s, early 1700s.
It's really crazy.
And it depicts a woman balancing a jug on her head. And it's sitting on a beautiful nice Dutch cabinet from the early 1600s, which I found in Manhattan as 1890. I had no clue. It dates about 1630, 1635.
1630.
Yes.
So well made. Something like this.
Again,
right?
Well, you know, the construction of these pieces, they're joined, they're pegged, and they last forever. And that patina from years of polishing is absolutely wonderful. You know?
Here's a fish motif,
yes.
and here's a bird on the front.
Exactly.
It's really gorgeous.
And the mirror is a beautiful Dutch mirror from the late 1600s, and it's painted black, again, to imitate ebony, to enrich the wood.
Right. So there's that contrast between the geometric pattern and here the floral.
Exactly.
And it just joins together.
Yes, it does,
marvelously. Well, when you talk about craftsmanship, I mean, you can't beat the silversmiths.
Right.
And some of the things in here, George, are really beautiful.
You have a salt cellar, you have a toddy ladle, you have a drinking cup, you have for communion, you have a silver plate for communion, you have a wine taster, candlestick. We have some nice silver medals in here.
Now there are quite a few that commemorate William and Mary. Why was that so important?
Well, medals commemorate a lot of events in the Netherlands at that time. Whether it's a battle scene, whether it's, well, king and queen were important people, of course. You can have medals made of gold and silver, even bronze, you know. We also have some money, you know, we have Dutch money as well. And then here we also...
These are important too, aren't they? The
Dutch dollar.
Yeah, the lion dollar.
The lion dollar, yes, we call them the lion dollar. You have a traveling silver fork, which folds. Traveling fork, yes, 1600. And also I put some Dutch tiles in here, which you would find around a fireplace. Yes. You know, and they were decorative, either with children playing games.
Exactly. What's so great about these tiles is they're children playing, they're playing just like they would play today.
Right, jump rope, swing,
pogo
stick, exactly, or tulips, trees, you know, all different,
so
you know,
kind of
motifs.
And
yes.
that I also love that we were able to share with people. That sometimes people put art, oh well, it's, you know, it's from another era and it's untouchable to us, but it's all the same.
Exactly.
You know, we can embrace it the same way.
Exactly.
Well, furniture, you can't beat this.
A lift-top chest. Well, you know, they needed furniture and storage.
Yeah.
Well, these were storage. You put blankets and what have you. And this is interesting. It's dated 1701, has the initials of the owner, and has the original drawer on the bottom, and it's richly carved with 3 panels.
Yes.
And the box on top of this is a Bible box. They used to call them Bible boxes.
Bible box.
Or a keeper's box. Documents, the Bible, important documents, you would put them in the lock and key. And keep it away from mice as well.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, something that also is amazing is you've loaned us some drawings.
Yes, yes.
Which are very delicate and very rare.
Well, it's a different type of artwork. Instead of in oils, you have it in either charcoal, ink, you know, crayon.
Yes, yes.
And again, different subject matter, trees.
They seem to be showing again that kind of everyday life, something that's familiar even to us today.
Right. Well, the Dutch, you know, the Dutch painted everything. You know, the countryside, you name it, they painted it, you know, and they documented everything on paper or canvas.
I think it's also they were interested in all of life.
Well, they were.
Not just that
They took
static.
pride. They took pride.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that's
Exactly.
it. You know, we've all learned so much. This painting has caused a lot of interest in the museum.
He's a wonderful portrait. And you can tell when you look at this, I mean, you don't see 3-length portraits or full-length portrait hardly anywhere, but he's definitely somebody of great importance.
Well, what about those items? You can barely see them that are on the table.
There's an orange.
I mean, would there be some significance?
Yes, they symbolize something, and there's also a watch. And I think the watch indicates that time is running out.
Maybe.
You know.
I mean, he's a young man, but there's still...
Yes, yes. Well, they live long sometimes in those periods, you know.
That's true.
But here you go. People say, how do you learn how to date furniture? Well, here's a painting dated 1673, and there's a chair. Yeah. Typical of that period.
The turning.
Yes, the volley twist.
The volley twist turn
exactly.
On the bottom.
And his clothing, his shoes, his lace work. I mean, it's absolutely, he's holding gloves. It's absolutely a beautiful portrait.
You know, when you look at the color of the wood,
right.
The quality of the wood, and you look at this amazing chair that's right here.
Yes.
You know.
That's a William and Mary chair, about 1690. I found that in Connecticut not too long ago. They sold as Victorian because they didn't know, you know. And also we have a nice pair of candlesticks.
There.
Right, you need a light. We didn't have electricity at that time, so we had to rely on.
And what were they generally made out of?
It was brass, and they weigh a ton. And I mean a ton.
They do. They do. Fabulous. Well, still more to see.
Oh, we have a lot. Yeah,
Let's
sure,
go to the next room.
Director of the Orangetown Historical Museum and Archives. And in this exhibit, we were asked to do a small exhibit for a family called the Blauvelts. The Blauvelts' progenitor originally came from Manhattan. Henriksen had 12 children. 11 of them came and settled in Orangetown. The family has celebrated their 90th reunion, and in doing so, they asked this museum to do an exhibit for the celebration. It was founded in 1925, and we had a very big family gathering outside back in September of this year. In this picture is the first photograph of the Blauvelt family reunion, which was taken in front of, at that time, the Dutch Reformed Church. Now it is called the Tappan Reformed Church. The Dutch were quite influential in this area. They left Manhattan probably because they needed more land. They had large families. More importantly, the English had taken over rule. The Dutch are very aware of their culture, their language, their religion, and they wanted to keep all these things. So by moving out of Manhattan, or New York at that time, and coming up here, they were able to speak their own Dutch language and have their services, their church services, said in Dutch. In this case, we have a Bible. It is a Blauvelt Bible, and it is printed in Dutch. The Dutch influence here in Orangetown remains. This building is what we call a Dutch sandstone house. There are a number of Dutch sandstone houses in Orangetown. There's probably about 40 of them. This type of architecture was just relevant to the lower Hudson Valley. So we see that they have certainly left their stamp. Even in the language we use the word curfew. And a curfew back then simply meant a piece of brass or metal in front of a fireplace to keep the embers going without them dispersing and setting fire. So we use the word curfew, kind of meaning the same thing. We use the word coleslaw, meaning cabbage salad. We all know what coleslaw is, and we've borrowed the word, and it's permanently in our language. So here we have a coat of arms, which signifies the Blauvelts Association. It's set on a blue field with 3 bars, 3 dots on it with a gold bar. We call it the AVD, which has about 700 members, many of whom still are active. We have some Blauvelts that still live in our area, for that matter. So we are very pleased and privileged to have done this exhibit for the Blauvelts descendants. And it was through them that this whole exhibit took place, because they asked us to do something for their celebration. But in doing so, we wanted to place it in a bigger picture and where they came from. So as you can see, they came from a place that celebrated their language and their heritage. Our museum was started in September of 1992 with the Michael Salyer House, which was donated by United Water at that time. This second building was given to us in 2002. We have managed to develop it as a museum that has changing exhibits once a year. Our other building has 3 permanent exhibits that we use for educational purposes. One of which is called A Spy in Our Midst, having to do with John Andre and Benedict Arnold. And another one having to do with the sandstone houses in the area. And our third exhibit having to do with the centennial of what was then the United States. So we have, for our 8th exhibit in this building, From Holland to Here, that we very proudly presented. And we think it is a rather significant exhibit. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our first meeting with George Way. George, we met you in July of 2014. It was a very hot July day.
Oh, was it?
As I remember, we came to your apartment in Staten Island. That was quite a trip. And we came into your apartment. You graciously invited us in, and we were impressed with the number of things we saw on your walls, but also scattered amongst your apartment with your tables and everything. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your collection, your spoon collection?
I love collecting spoons. If you look at 17th century wills in America or even in Holland, you see spoons mentioned quite often because they were very valuable. They were given out at funerals and also at baptisms. So they're very important. You'll see many spoons that have different finials, some apostles. One here has a lamb, which means the Lamb of God, so you know that is a baptism spoon. And on the back of the bowl it has the full name of the owner and who it was given to, which is, you don't find many spoons that have inscriptions. They're usually in collections or museums, but once in a while you do find them. But they're very valuable, and I just love collecting spoons. Here we have a wonderful clock, Charles II, 1680, by Thomas Wheeler. Well, at the time I didn't have a 17th century Dutch clock. Until after the exhibit opened up, I found one on eBay, but it was too late then to put into the exhibit. So, but it's not unusual to see an English clock in a Dutch house in Holland, whether here or in Holland, because people traveled at that time, and they brought things from the Orient, they brought things from other countries they visited, they brought these gifts home. So it's not unusual to see an English or Spanish, work of art in these Dutch houses as well, The chamberstick is a candlestick that we call it a chamber, since you would carry it to different chambers, different rooms of a Dutch house, also made out of brass. And here is my apartment that you visited, with my Elizabethan cupboard in the background, and you can see it's loaded So
Yes, it is.
I know I'm gonna make space for this exhibit somehow, but anyway, so.
What about this painting over here, George?
Oh.
It's one of my favorite paintings, has such personality.
This one here?
The gentleman with the ruff.
This is one of my favorite paintings in the exhibit. It's painted on panel. It's the early 1600s. It kind of reminds me of Frans Hals' work, who was one of the most famous portrait painters in the Netherlands at that time. Who he is, I have no idea. Someday I'll research it, but you look at that beautiful falling collar there, his beard, the color tones in his face are just unbelievable. And someday I'll be able to identify him, I hope. This portrait here is a portrait of King William III, who was Queen Mary's husband. They were joint monarchs. They came from Holland, they went to England and became King and Queen of England. Queen Mary loved Delft, and she had a lot of it shipped from the Netherlands to her palace, and decorated quite a few rooms with that blue and white Delft. But he's wonderful. He's wearing the Order of the Garter, and wonderful lace work, and he's so recognizable with that nose. It's so typical to identify who he is, and that long lace, long court wig, which was typical in that period, late 1600s, early 1700s.
Something to me that's so interesting is like the different treatment, George, of these two paintings. This one like a little more stylized, right? And this one so realistic.
Yeah.
And that's what started happening in Dutch art, right? That it started really moving towards this, they call, like with Rembrandt, the psychological portrait.
Exactly.
Really, like you get to the...
Well, if you look at some of Rembrandt's paintings, some of his early paintings were very loose, and some were tight.
Yeah.
And the tight ones are the ones with most detail. You know, like Frans Hals. You know, some of his paintings, well, most of his paintings are very loose, but some of them are very detailed, like this one here. So he's definitely from the hand of a master. No question about it.
But maybe it was cold in the studio because his nose is so red. Look at it over here.
Yeah, beautiful.
This case people have just parked in front of. And it's a wonderful kind of composite of everyday life.
Yes, yes. Things that you would see in people's homes. You have an ice skate. People, I mean, they love ice skating. You see a lot of Dutch paintings showing people on the ice skating and pushing sleds and what have you.
Right, right.
You have a wonderful collar, a Dutch collar, a jug.
To have a textile survive
is unusual.
centuries, literally, right?
Well,
not disintegrate.
Well, I think, a lot of these things belong to collectors over the years, and they're handed down to one collector to the next.
Right.
And we take pride and we take care of our things. The jug is another beautiful jug with tulips painted on it. We have some small candlesticks. We have a wine bottle. We have a bronze mortar. We have an iron with the woman's name on it, dated 1697.
The date is right on it.
Yes.
Too.
We have a door, a beautiful brass lock.
Yeah, exactly. Even the lock is so finely crafted.
Yes,
and
all the
so
etching.
beautiful.
Yes.
Right.
We have beautiful tobacco boxes.
Now, why would they have the tobacco boxes like that when they would travel? With
yeah, oh yeah, that and a pipe. The Dutch, if you look at these paintings, most of them had pipes in their hands all the time.
Yeah,
you know, they carry them, and they all have different subjects on them. They're engraved with coats of arms, or some are commemorative as well. You know, here we have a nice drawing by Rembrandt.
By Rembrandt.
Yes, by Rembrandt, signed by Rembrandt. The Beggar Woman here it's an etching by Rembrandt as well. And this drawing here, which I think is by Van Goyen. I think it's signed by Van Goyen, who was another Dutch artist at that time. In the top section we have some nice jugs, Elizabethan jug.
Well, this is very early.
Yes, it's very early. Beautiful pottery from the Netherlands. A white lobe plate in the middle section, and a William and Mary commemorative plate dated 1689, when William and Mary became King and Queen of England.
It's amazing.
But a lot of different little things of interest.
It's one thing that was, which was difficult for us was limiting from your vast collection. This is only like the tip of the iceberg from some of the wonderful things that.
But it was fun choosing.
It was marvelous exhibiting them here also. And this painting of Frederick over there.
Oh yes, Prince of Orange, Frederick. I had this portrait I found in I think it was Maine or Vermont, I don't remember, as a 19th century painting, but I knew it was early 17th century. And the National Portrait identified who he was for me. Now the frame I had, which is period, had a mirror in it, which is a reproduction. I took the mirror out, painting fitted in perfectly, and with the original orange paint, House of Orange, it fit perfectly.
The House of Orange.
Yes, exactly.
Well, George, it's been an amazing experience being able to share this artwork with
Oh, it was my
the town of
pleasure working
Orangetown.
with you. Wonderful, wonderful.
From Holland to Here is closed. Our exhibit is closed now, but we'll never forget the wonderful
Thank
time
you.
we
My
spent
pleasure.
with you.
We'll do something again, I'm
I
sure.
hope so.
Thank you.